This video is being recorded on October 30th, 2020. In this video, I will be reviewing the process that the NFPA Roadmap Committee will be using to review and update the NFPA Technology Roadmap in 2021. You're likely viewing this video because you are a member of the NFPA Roadmap Committee, or you have been asked to participate in our process because of your special expertise. This video will also describe what the NFPA Technology Roadmap is and the different elements that comprise it. If you have any questions about the material presented here, please feel free to contact me, Eric Lanke, at the National Fluid Power Association by email at elanke@nfpa.com. Let's start with clearly defining what the NFPA Technology Roadmap is. It is a document that describes an industry-wide consensus regarding the pre-competitive research and development needs associated with improving the design, manufacture, and function of fluid power components and systems. The research and development agenda it describes is focused on advancements that will help the fluid power industry meet the future needs of its customers, expand into new markets, and attract the best and brightest students to the field. The roadmap is used by the NFPA and by its academic partners to guide their research efforts. It is also used by NFPA members and other industry players to inform decisions about research partnerships and product development. And it is also used by academic, government, and other organizations that wish to pursue research and development projects of importance to the fluid power industry. It is updated every 2 years under the guidance and leadership of the NFPA Roadmap Committee. Here is the current roster of the NFPA Roadmap Committee. As you can see, it is a large committee, which is good for our purposes, as it comprises a broad cross-section of fluid power manufacturers, distributors, suppliers, and machine builders, as well as some of our academic and other partners. With a group this large, it is often difficult to keep this roster up to date, so if you see any listing that is out of date for your company, please let me know so we can update our records. Some companies have more than one representative on the committee, and that's perfectly okay. And we are still accepting volunteers to serve on this committee. If you or others in your organization have expertise that would be helpful to our process, please let me know, and we would be happy to invite you and confirm your participation. It's important for everyone to know that all NFPA activities are conducted in strict accordance with our antitrust guidelines. Because of federal antitrust laws, certain topics are not proper subjects for discussion. In many cases, including in our Roadmap Committee, members are competitors, and any action or agreement which may eliminate, restrict, or govern competition among them or their colleagues could be a violation of antitrust laws. Those violating antitrust laws are subject to severe criminal and civil penalties. Therefore, as we work together on the roadmap this year, we must be sure not to discuss any items falling within the realm of competitive practices, such as current or future prices, terms of service, discounts, production or productivity rates, allocation of markets, profit levels, credit terms, or refusal to deal with a particular supplier or customer. We ask that you please adhere strictly to these guidelines to protect yourself, your company, and the NFPA from liability. It is also important for everyone to understand what we mean by pre-competitive research. I said that our roadmap will describe an industry-wide consensus regarding the pre-competitive research and development needs associated with improving the design, manufacture, and function of fluid power components and systems. By pre-competitive, we essentially mean research that is performed at the time in the technology development cycle when interested but potentially competitive parties agree that there is value to be gained from a collaborative rather than a competitive approach. In other words, all parties should agree that the research areas and targets we define serve everyone's interest, not just the interests of a few. Pre-competitive research generally resides in the middle ground between fundamental basic research, conducted mainly in universities, and proprietary research performed or directed mainly by companies. And it can be performed either to develop new technologies or to determine the market readiness of new technologies. As we work together on this year's update to the technology roadmap, we will want to stay focused on the fundamental advancements that could be translated into product improvements in the future, not on specific product improvements that we would like to see today. Now let's take a look at the discrete elements that comprise the technology roadmap. As shown by the arrows on this slide, each of these elements connect to the one preceding it in an interdependent chain. We start on the far left with customer drivers, the business or technology objectives of fluid power customers, the things that they need to do to better serve the needs of their own customers without specific regard to their use of fluid power. In the example at the bottom of the slide, I've chosen increased productivity and performance as a possible customer driver. Users of machines want increased productivity and performance, so the builders of those machines view that need as a driver that shapes their business and technology objectives. Linked to the customer drivers are what we call capability improvements, the ways in which fluid power systems must improve if they are to meet or better meet the customer needs described by the customer drivers. In the example, I've chosen increase the power density of fluid power systems as a possible capability improvement. If fluid power systems were more power dense, they would help our customers deliver increased productivity and performance to their customers. Linked to each capability improvement are what we call research areas, the broad areas of pre-competitive investigation that could assist in bringing about the capability improvement. In the example, I've chosen use additive manufacturing to produce integrated fluid power components as a possible research area. If additive can produce more integrated components with the same or better performance characteristics, it could increase the power density of fluid power systems, which in turn could help our customers deliver increased productivity and performance to their customers. Finally, linked to each research area are what we call research targets, objectives that quantify or otherwise describe successful strategies for pursuing the research areas. For the example, I've chosen demonstrate high pressure capability of additively manufactured fluid power components as a possible research target. In order to use additive to make viable integrated components, we would need to prove that additive materials can withstand the pressures associated with working fluid power systems. So that is a potential research target that aligns with all of the elements before it. People or organizations that wish to pursue R&D projects of importance to the fluid power industry should therefore design and conduct research projects that attempt to achieve these targets. Here is a snapshot of the actual 2019 NFPA Technology Roadmap. Don't get lost in the details here, just take a look at the basic structure. We have 8 customer drivers that define the needs of our customers. Connected to them are 8 fluid power capability improvements, each impacting, through those colored lines, a different subset of the customer drivers. Connected to each capability improvement are a total of 34 research areas, each describing a broad area of pre-competitive investigation that could bring each capability improvement about. And connected to each research area, unfortunately at a granularity that's difficult to capture on one slide, are a total of 96 research targets, each describing a specific target that researchers should aim at if they are going to pursue work in a particular research area. This is the roadmap as it stood in 2019, and the task of our committee is to update and refresh this information for 2021, starting with a renewed understanding of the customer drivers and then working backwards through this chain to develop each of the other elements. And here's how we're going to do that. The process will be conducted in 4 phases. Phase 1 will focus on customer drivers and will take place between November 2020 and January 2021. On November 12th, we will send everyone a link to a survey on customer drivers. The survey will ask you, for the customer markets that you are familiar with, to rank in importance the customer drivers that were identified in 2019, and to suggest additional customer drivers that may have emerged since that time. We will encourage you to share the survey link with people in your customer markets. As the broader the response to this survey, the more meaningful the resulting data will be. The survey will close on December 17th, at which time we will begin crunching the numbers and grouping the open-ended responses in order to create a focused agenda for our first virtual committee meeting on January 21st. Please hold that date on your calendars. We will send more detailed information on its timing and its agenda when we get closer. The meeting objective will be to review the survey data and then discuss, define, and prioritize a list of customer drivers that will be used to drive the remaining elements of the roadmap. That will be the end of Phase 1. Phase 2 will focus on capability improvements and will be conducted between January and March 2021. Shortly after the January 21st committee meeting, a meeting report will be disseminated with the agreed upon and prioritized customer drivers and setting the stage for this new phase. 2 important topics will be discussed. How well does fluid power currently align with these new customer drivers? And what capability improvements should our industry focus on in order to better meet the needs expressed by those drivers? Like Phase 1, we will design and conduct a survey of the full committee in order to gather both quantitative and qualitative information on those 2 subjects. That survey will close on February 18th, at which time we will again use that information to create a focused agenda for our second virtual committee meeting on March 4th. Again, please hold that date on your calendars. Our plan is to conduct that meeting in conjunction with the NFPA Regional Conference already scheduled for that date. We will send more detailed information when we get closer. The meeting objective will be to review the survey data and then discuss, define, and prioritize a list of capability improvements that will be used to drive the remaining elements of the roadmap. And that will be the end of Phase 2. Phase 3 will focus on research areas and targets and will be conducted between March and June 2021. Shortly after that March 4th committee meeting, another meeting report will be disseminated with the agreed upon and prioritized capability improvements and setting the stage for this new phase. That will include a process for identifying a set of working groups from the larger committee, one for each of the capability improvements. Like Phases 1 and 2, we will design and conduct a survey of the full committee in order to gain information on potential research areas and targets for each of the capability improvements. That survey will close on April 1st, at which time we will begin organizing and funneling the appropriate information to each of the working groups. At a mutually agreeable date and time in either April or May, each of the working groups will meet to review their information and to discuss and prioritize the research areas and targets for their capability improvement. We'll collect that feedback from each of the working groups, and we will use it to create a focused agenda for our third and final virtual committee meeting on June 3rd. Again, please hold that date on your calendars. Again, our plan would be to conduct that meeting in conjunction with the NFPA Regional Conference already scheduled for that date. We will send more detailed information as the time draws closer. The meeting objective will be to review and harmonize the research areas and targets submitted by each working group into one cohesive whole that will support a draft roadmap. And that will be the end of Phase 3. So finally, Phase 4 will focus on the assembly and approval of the final roadmap document. and it will be conducted between June and August of 2021. NFPA will draft and circulate a document based on all the previous discussions. We will then collect your feedback, revise the document if needed, and then present the final draft at our Industry and Economic Outlook Conference in August. Following that session, the final roadmap document will be created and sent to all of our members and education partners. Thank you for watching this video and for participating in our roadmap committee. I hope you realize that the committee's update cycle is not just an opportunity to create a refreshed document critical to our industry's growth and development, but also to network and connect with potential suppliers, partners, and customers across the fluid power supply chain. Past committee members have cited how informative and rewarding participating in this road mapping process can be. So I would encourage you all to take full advantage of these opportunities as we roll forward. If you have any questions about your service on the committee, about the NFPA Technology Roadmap, or about the process we will use to update it, please feel free to contact me, Eric Lanke of the National Fluid Power Association, by email at elanke@nfpa.com.